Hey guys, this is Dr. Jessica, your holistic Dr. Mama, where I teach you how to love your body, empower your mind, and nourish your spirit. Well, today I have a very special guest, Dr. Rosie Main. She is here and she is the ketogenic diet expert. And I'm going to go ahead and read all of her accomplishments. She's a very lovely woman. I haven't gotten to meet her as much as I would like, but we are going to have many conversations in the future because she and I have a lot in common. So, do you want to go ahead and... All right, well, Dr. Rosie graduated at the top of her class with a Doctorate of Chiropractic degree from Parker College of Chiropractic. She has 2 Bachelors of Science, Biology, and Anatomy from the University of Texas in San Antonio, where she graduated magna cum laude. Dr. Rosie has a passion and vision to educate her community on a new level of thinking towards health and to inspire people to start making healthy lifestyle choices. And that's why I found her, because she is going to help you right now to start understanding lifestyle choices that we make on our own. When we become informed, we can then help ourselves and our family. So she currently sees patients in her Meridian, Idaho clinic, which I'm in right now, which is Main Health Solutions, where the focus is on maximize life for the whole family. She is a team chiropractor for USA Wrestling, USA Judo, and USA Weightlifting, and currently travels internationally with the team since 2009 to help them achieve peak performance, and was the USA's women's wrestling team doctor at the 2012 London Olympics and 2016 Olympics. Wow, you've got a lot going on. She also is the wellness coordinator and chiropractor for Ballet Idaho. In addition to her speaking engagements, she conducts classes for churches, organizations, schools, universities, military, and business on a diverse number of topics that focus on positive changes that impact quality and quantity of life and health. She also does this by her weekly radio show on 94.1 FM and what is that, Keto? KIDO? K-I-D-O. Okay, K-I-D-O, 580 Talk Radio, as well as Spanish radio, where she hosts how to live a maximized life to reach out to her community. Recently, she has become an Amazon best-selling author of Dr. Rosie's Mexi Keto Kitchen, which I have right here, which is super cool. I've already picked my nose through it, and I can't wait to try some of these recipes and also share these with you. She is the most notable, and this is what I really, really love. When I read and I listened to her speak, this is what really warmed my heart and felt like I needed to share her with all of you. The most notable characteristics about Dr. Rosie is her heart and passion for helping people. She has suffered family health tragedies that she does not wish anyone else to endure. Therefore, she is on a mission to change the health and future of her patients and the community. She is highly involved as a board member of the Fellowship of Christian Athletes and Health Freedom Idaho. Loves serving God through mission trips. Thank you so much for your time. I know how it is to be, running around doing all the different things, and then to just get this time right now, it makes me feel very, very thankful. So I appreciate it.
I'm honored to be here. Try to help people, again, is the biggest thing that my heart calls for, and I know that sometimes people just need that one thing that they can be empowered to go do for themselves, and so this is why I do what I do. So
I love it. I already have goosebumps. That's wonderful. So tell me a little bit, what got you so passionate about health and overall, like you mentioned some tragedies, like start back then, like what opened your eyes to all of this?
Well, I unfortunately lost my mom prematurely when we were young. My sister and I had to take care of my mom, and she gradually lost most of her organs. She had problems with her kidneys. She had to have a transplant from the diabetes, and unfortunately lost when she was in her early 50s. And but that started that epiphany, that light bulb moment when you start thinking, is this what's supposed to be about? And about 2 years ago, I my sister also was diagnosed with diabetes, and she actually, my older sister and I were taking care of her as well, and it just kind of brought back those memories of having to care for my mom and having to bathe her and having to change her diapers and things like that. And it began just this, I don't know, I just sensed that God was calling me to do something. And I got so stressed that I myself started to have issues with my own blood sugar. And so then I started to really research into a ketogenic lifestyle. I was already doing, no grain, no sugar. But what I really tapped into is also intermittent fasting and have done that for the last 2 years for my own health. Unfortunately, lost my sister again. So I think that, from that pain, you become, more purposeful. And so that's what drove me to start writing all the recipes that I was doing for myself that not only helped me, but my family. And I see lots of patients get to where they're no longer having to use medications and, diabetic patients, no longer having diabetes. And a lot of this is, again, I don't ever say we heal anything, but, our bodies are meant to heal, and
they absolutely
God doesn't make junk. And I really feel that sometimes people lose hope, and I feel that that's what drove me to do this, is to reach out to that one person that can maybe change their life.
Absolutely. No, that's wonderful. Now, you have mentioned a few different things, so tell everybody, like, what really is the ketogenic lifestyle? For me right now, personally, I just love this topic. I really do. I'm very passionate about nutrition and giving the body the nutrients it needs to heal, because I know it can heal from within. The power that made the body can heal the body. That's kind of the motto that you and I both were groomed with as well, and we've seen miracles before our eyes happen time and time again. But like you said, a lot of people lose hope. So what is this ketogenic diet lifestyle that you just mentioned?
Well, it's nothing new. It's not a fad diet. Actually, it's been around since the 1920s, 1950s. People really started using this for epilepsy, kids with seizures, and so this has been around for a while, and it's helped a lot of times. What happens with this diet specifically, it is focused on a very high-fat diet and very low carbohydrates. You're going to have maybe consume 20 to 50 grams of carbohydrates, but it's the type of carbohydrates that you're loading. So you're still having carbohydrates, but just the good sources. But mainly the whole intent is to go back and allow your body to burn fat for energy instead of sugar, because we become sugar burners that our body is not able to it doesn't even know how to burn fat. So when you come into this lifestyle, it's about choosing those foods that are in quality high fats and starting to get rid of not only the processed sugars, but also just even sugar itself, even fruits that have high carbohydrates, and then get to the point where your liver starts to produce ketone bodies that your body utilizes for energy, specifically your brain. And that's why it works so well with epileptic patients and seizure activity. And so that's where with my sister having, when she died at 47, she had issues with her mental status. She had hypoxia, and she had a car accident when she was pregnant. Well, when she was in the womb, my mom was pregnant, and ever since she was little, she had issues with her mental health. And she started to get seizure activities at the very end, and schizophrenia. And when we started adapting this diet for her, a lot of those kind of issues went away. So that's what I started, prompting me to kind of research even more so.
Yes, and when I was in practice, I took care of multiple children that had over hundreds of seizures a day. That was what I did, was I worked with disabilities and stuff like that. And medication didn't even touch them. But when we started shifting their diet and giving them the nutrients and the foundational elements like you're talking about, the proper fats, the healthy fats, the proper ratio of protein and the proper ratio of carbohydrates, we saw altering changes from hundreds of seizures going down to literally 1 to 5 a day. It was life-changing. changing, and that's the power of this, and that's why I get really passionate about it, and that's why this is one of my topics on my Strong Mama Inner Circle. If you don't know about it, I choose topics of the month, trending health topics that I feel people need to know about, and this is one of them. So you had mentioned good fats. Okay, let's talk about that, because how many, maybe, what was it, 20 years ago, the Atkins diet was this huge diet, right? And everybody started thinking that, it's just like the keto diet. The Atkins, the keto, they're so similar, but they're not the same thing. So you got to hear this, because the good fats are not like those bad fats that the Atkins diet says you can have pretty much any fat and tons of high protein. What is the difference?
The biggest difference, and I think this is where keto has been misconstrued, and it goes back to that same thinking that I could have all the bacon I want, and I could have all the, just the bad food that sometimes like saturated fats have been said that
deep fried, everything.
We want saturated fats, but we want them from good sources, from like grass-fed meat, and so this is where we want to choose the right fat, which we in our office specifically call them God fats. I know people always say God fats, because it's a real fats that were made from that are in our earth. And so, for instance, you want to get away from the hydrogenated fats, the synthetic fats, such as canola and
safflower,
all these fats that are just not good for you, that were man-made. And so this is where you want to choose the right quality fats, and I think avocados, nuts and seeds that are raw, and grass-fed meats, wild game, and then wild fish, those things that have good fats in them, and you want to exclude those things that are toxic. And I think that's where when we talk about bacon, it's not that you can't have bacon per se, but you want to choose a good quality pork instead of something that's been fed some of the toxic sources. And so even fish in itself, you don't want them to be filled with mercury that's going to cause more problems. So even the salmon that you choose, you want to make sure it's from wild Alaskan or Pacific sources. And so you have to still read the labels.
Definitely, and ask the questions. I think that's the biggest thing, is empower people to ask questions. Find out where you're getting your meat. Like, go to a farm, find out how they're raising their livestock, make sure it is 100% grass-fed. So just to recap on the fats, so avocados are fantastic, and the avocado oil is great too to cook with, because it can go to a high level of heat and it won't become rancid and oxidized.
Coconut oil is one thing. Again, people think it's a saturated fat, and so automatically they're like calling me and saying, but it's saturated, and the thing is that we've been lied to. We've been told that these fats are bad, when in essence we need fat, and specifically saturated oils. I mean, they're in our breast milk. We're meant to have these kind of fats. It's just a type of fat, and that you choose things that do not go rancid either. And so there's things that can actually be good fat, but man has altered them. So even olive oil is a very good oil, but if you heat it in high temperatures, then you actually have made this great quality fat into a bad fat because of the oxidation. So those things to cook with, like you said, is going to be the avocado oil, the coconut oil, and just make sure that you're getting enough of these fats.
Sure, absolutely. So now let's talk about protein. Now, a lot of people who start eating this kind of lifestyle, it seems like protein, like, what are good protein sources? And then is it true, because I already know the answer, but I want them to hear this. Is it true that you could actually eat too much protein?
Definitely. And I think that is, again, the myth that, okay, it's an Atkins diet, I'm going to eat all the meat that I can have. And that's not true. That, the reality when it comes to sugar, most protein, if not utilized, turns to sugar. And so this is where we think it's a protein. It is, but it gets stored as glycogen if not utilized. And this is where most athletes that I work with, when I work with Olympic athletes, they're working out like maybe 8 hours a day. They have the ability to have more protein in their diet, but yet if somebody is not working out that heavily, that the body stores this excess protein in essence as a glycogen glycogen, and then if not utilized, and it moves into things like abdominal fat cells, and you create, so people get frustrated with the inability to burn fat during a ketogenic diet, but they're having so much protein. And so typically most women should have maybe a 4 to 6 ounce steak. Maybe I just have the size of my palm, like a 3 ounce steak or a piece of chicken breast or whatever the case is, where a male can probably eat a little bit more. So the key is making it at least 15 to 20 grams per meal.
And that's per meal. So like the size of your palm per meal.
Right.
Okay. That's awesome. That's a really great tip.
Too. Like,
yes.
It can be the size of your palm, but this thick, you got to make sure you put the details.
No, I love that. Yeah. I usually say a deck of cards, which that's that's pretty much it. And that's great for your individual body, which is awesome. Now, you also mentioned carbohydrates. Carbohydrates are, the sugar. And this is a fact that, carbohydrates are often looked at as something that's essential, which that is completely not true. Fats are absolutely essential. We need them. We have to ingest them. Our brains are pretty much all fat. We have fat surrounding every cell to make sure the conduction of the cells work properly. We have to have the protein, but not too much. Tell us about carbohydrates.
Yeah, definitely. As a bodybuilder, when I was competing, we listened a lot to that food pyramid that tells you, we have to eat all those carbohydrates. And so we always stuffing in my face with pasta and rice and and so again, I was lifting and I could able to handle it, but with this diet, the fact is most Americans are consuming an excess of carbohydrate, and it's typically not the carbohydrates that are what we recommend with a ketogenic diet, which are the cruciferous vegetables that have the nutrients that you actually need. So you do want carbohydrates, but you want them from, again, good sources. So with this diet, you're going to exclude everything that turns to sugar. So for sure, for vegetables, you would exclude things like potatoes.
Do you mind if I interrupt real quick? So she just mentioned vegetables on the carbohydrate list. So I love that you're bringing this up, because I think a lot of people forget that vegetables are actually carbohydrates.
Right.
They think, but at the same time, they're definitely utilized differently in the body, and just because of the fact that they're high fiber, they're low glycemic, etc. But I just wanted to make sure and back that up, because she is talking about the cruciferous vegetables, which we'll talk about a little bit more, but those are the good carbs. And now you're going to go ahead and tell us the bad carbs.
Yeah, so what are the bad carbs? I mean, the white things.
I call it the white trash.
The white
trash. That's just what it is.
so yeah, definitely, you have white bread, white pasta, white rice, and so white flour, all these things that are very refined sugars, and so the refined carbohydrates are going to really spike that glucose in your blood. And so we want to not only switch to brown rice or things like that. Brown rice still, and even grains such as wheat, it's still sugar. And so with this diet, we want to again keep that carbohydrate to only 20 to 50 grams per day. If you start adding this up, it's going to be an excess where your body's not going to be able to then go into a ketotic state or a ketosis where you're building these ketones. And that's the biggest intent, is getting rid of all carbohydrates except for those cruciferous vegetables that are very low in carbohydrates. And it's kind of crazy how even nuts have some carbohydrates. So you wouldn't even think, like cashews, when you really get into this diet, you have to make sure that you're monitoring your ketones, because even some nuts are high in carbohydrates. Some vegetables are higher than others. So that's where you're going to be very, very well if you stick to the green vegetables like broccoli and spinach and kale, and even tomatoes have some carbohydrates. So you have to watch out how much you're having.
So one thing you just we both skipped over was fruit. Let's talk about fruit, because I'm a fruit lover. I think a lot of people, a lot of children especially, we're always told, at least I am always telling people, eat your fruits and vegetables, eat your fruits and vegetables. Children often tend to go towards the fruit first all the time versus the vegetables if they're not introduced properly and whatnot. But tell us a little bit about fruit. Like, can we have fruit on the diet? Like what, or like where does that all play in this process?
Yeah, I mean, I love fruit, especially the summertime. We all want our fruit, but there are, again, so much sugar in fruit. And so we typically recommend that patients on a keto diet either stay away from fruit, or if they're going to have it, there's some specific ones that are low in glycemic index. Again, you can go to Carb Manager app that tells you how many grams per serving are in each of these. But berries typically are safe, and green apples, so all the berries like strawberries and berries. But there's still, some in there that can actually kick you out of ketosis if you're monitoring, and some people just have more of a sensitivity to that. But most of the recipes that you'll see in most ketogenic diets call for either green apples or berries. So we'll see, that use, like I made a cobbler last night for my husband, and it was, berries with nuts and, mainly sweetened with stevia. And so that is, sometimes you crave those, and you also want the nutrients from the fruits, but stay away from all tropical fruits, bananas, mangoes, pineapples, watermelons, and that's going to keep you safe if you just stick to the berries and green apples.
Thank you. That's awesome. I think this is really, really helpful. Now let's chat a little bit about something you just had mentioned was fasting. Now, I am a huge proponent of fasting. I just working with a lot of different people throughout the years. Also personally, I feel like fasting was an integral part of my own personal healing through some different health issues I've had in the past. I do like to carb cycle. I'm not sure if we want to go into all that, but I like to do a cycle where like I get a cheat meal, of berries and fruit and stuff like that, but then I go back into that ketosis state. But something that you mentioned was intermittent fasting. Share with people what intermittent fasting is. If you don't know what intermittent fasting is, this is a really phenomenal thing, so pay attention, and also share your process of like maybe you personally, how you intermittent fast.
Yeah, and this is life-saving for me. I know that when my sister died, my sugars went really high, so I really prayed, and actually God told me to fast, and so that's where I started researching and fasting more and more.
I've got goosebumps.
Yeah. And I started looking at not for just my health, but just for spiritual reasons first, and then from there, I started January 2018. I said I'm going to do an extended fast, which I don't recommend people to jump and dive into.
Sure.
But I was doing this more for spiritual reasons, so I did a water fast of only drinking water for about 5 days. I didn't even know what I was doing. He said fast, so I did it. And and that, was hard. It was really hard, but it actually allowed me to then connect more to a bigger power. So that was huge, but I started to check my sugars, and they dropped back to normal, and they stayed like that for about a month. And so I started digging up more information about fasting, and so I started to see that there's so many ancient cultures that have used fasting for many years, and so it's one of those things that I think that I really want to dive into and do for myself for just the long term of health. And so I started then it's kind of like you said, the cycling. I started to implement more of a intermittent fasting, but with diet variation, and putting in there some days of eating windows. So like she said, intermittent fasting is an allotted window of eating where it could be either 10-hour fast or 12, 16, 18 fast. So like for instance, I could start my first meal at 12 and then end it at 9, and then you have 9 hours later you can eat, or 10 or 12, whatever you want to do. But I started to play with just these kind of different type of fasts. I would either do 1 day of intermittent fast, and I started to really think, well, maybe I need 2 or 3 days. But then your body actually, unfortunately, starts to think it's starving. So you have to understand your body's always there trying to survive. It doesn't know what you're doing. So if you do too much of one good thing, it ends up being a bad thing. And so you have to basically shock the body and say, okay, so we do feast and famine phases where, one day, like on a Saturday, we'll go have 3 meals, and add some carbohydrates. I'll have good carbohydrates like sweet potatoes and brown rice or oatmeal, but yet still keeping it where your body is not thinking it's going to starve, that it starts to hoard more fat. So I started to play with all these fasting. Then monthly I would still continue an extended fast of water, only about 3 to 5 days. And so since I did that in 2018, I committed to God that I was going to do the extended fast once a month for 12 months, and just, kept checking my insulin levels and my sugar levels, and everything started to stabilize and actually stay there. And so then this year in 2019, I've just been a little bit more lenient. So I do 1 month and 1 month off, 1 month of extended fasting of 3 to 5 days, and it's become a lifestyle, like you said. And it's one of these things that I think that people don't understand what fasting does, but it's called autophagy, and it's basically cell recycling. The body is meant to heal from within. It has an inborn innate intelligence that heals itself, and so it needs time to heal. And what fasting does is it allows your body time to rest so that it can actually go in there. The immune system goes actually and finds those old debris cells, cancer cells, whatever fibrotic tissue, goes and eats that up for fuel. When you're fasting, your body will try to preserve the muscle last. You think I'm going to lose all this muscle.
That's such a good point. I'm glad you're bringing that up.
As a bodybuilder, I was able to you create what's called stem cells. Everybody's interested in stem cells. Well, your body creates more stem cells by recycling those old cells, and then actually start creating new cells. And these stem cells will then replace new tissues, the lining of your gut, the lining of your skin. So overall, the healing ability of your body, it starts to heal itself. And so this is what I've seen, is that it's restored my joints, it's restored my gut lining. I've had just more strength, and that's where actually sometimes even increase in muscle when I continue to fast. And that's where it's become a lifestyle for me.
No, I love that. I feel like we've got so much in common. I could probably spend a day and we could not stop talking, because that's exactly it. I think personally, intermittent fasting, again, she mentioned there's a window of time that you eat. So a lot of people think, oh my gosh, breakfast, we've been trained by the food industry to pretty much eat our breakfast, right? We have got to get up and eat. The breakfast is the first thing that that kicks off the day, and it's the most important meal. And I feel like that's been a big, huge lie, I'll be honest, because once I started adopting and living this principle of intermittent fasting and extended, and I do 5 days as well, which is really cool. Sometimes I've gone up to 8. I don't even recommend doing that, because you just don't need to. I mean, right for where I'm at in my life, I just don't need to. But just starting off with this intermittent fasting, where you skip your breakfast and you have an eating window, say like 12 to say 8 or whatever you had said, that's your feeding window, and then you allow your body to heal. You had brought something else up while I was talking about, or while you were talking about it, and I thought, oh, we've got to talk about this. You said that your blood sugars were more, what would you say, defined or level, right?
Level.
Okay,
yeah.
Level. But also tell them what would make your blood sugar, like what are the components that make blood sugar to be off? Like, it's not just about the food. What are these lifestyle factors that can throw that off?
And that's exactly, genetics are a tendency, but they're not a life sentence. And yes, my mom died of diabetes, my sister, and so I could have thought the same thing. So I think the biggest thing is your mindset. Number one is, as a man thinketh, so he is. It's biblical. It's that alignment that knows that, you're made to heal, and you don't have to become the label that your ancestors have had or your history. And so knowing that, you can change the way you live your life. So that's number one. And I think that the second thing is also with mindset, it comes to stress. I myself, even though I was eating right and I was exercising and all that, but then yet, my mom dies, and then my sister has this stuff, and then now my dad's actually in the hospital too because of diabetes. He got a stroke and now he's paralyzed. No. And so this is where stress can, even though it does you in. And so I had to really anchor into my foundation, which is, my spiritual life, and then yet also had to know that I had to take some things for myself to help my adrenal system. So along with first faith, and then second some, of course, the fasting, but there's things like rhodiola and cordyceps and ashwagandha, those kind of like herbs that, there's plants that help you adapt. They're called adaptogens that help. There's so many things out there right now in the nutritional world. There's berberine. There's so many things that are out there that can assist the body. But I think the number one cause of this unleveling is the type of lifestyle that we have with our stress and our time management. And sometimes you can't really control it. I couldn't control what was happening with my life and all this stuff that got poured onto me, but I really feel that because of it, I came out stronger in the end, because now I have more of a anchored spiritual life, and yet also some tools that now I can assist my patients with when it comes to their health. And so yeah, that's...
Oh, that's great. Yeah, stress is a huge component to raising blood sugar, to changing and affecting all of our hormonal system.
And the type of exercise, I'm sorry to
interrupt
perfect. You, but I think that as a bodybuilder, of course, I did a lot of high intensity workouts and a lot of, workouts with high weight and Olympic lifting that I did. I was a power lifter too. So I also had to shift what I was doing for my exercise. I started to choose yoga. I started to choose, breathing exercises that has really helped me. And I think that's where I think I had to change my mind on how I was exercising as well.
Oh, I love that. No, I myself as well, being a college athlete and, push. And then all of a sudden it's like, no, slow down and go internal. And that's what fasting does as well. It really helps you go internal. It helps a whole array of stuff. So I'll be sharing a lot more with you on that. I do want to share this right here. This is Dr. Rosie's Mexi Keto Kitchen Cookbook, which they can find on Amazon, right?
Yes.
That's awesome. I was super stoked when I saw like smoothies and juices and stuff like that, because that's what I'm doing Facebook Lives and teaching people like snack attacks and healthy things for families and whatnot. And so this is so great. I love this.
So being Hispanic, we have a lot of Hispanic patients in my office, and so I got the idea to try to help them and make it to where they can still live with the cultural food that we were raised with. And so we started doing it in Spanish, and then my husband just says, why don't you just do them in English too, and then we'll just print out a book for those people who also love Mexican food.
I love it.
So then it became just a little tool for our office, and he's like, why don't you put it on Amazon? And then before you know it becomes Amazon bestseller. It's like, but again, it was not through me, it was through a bigger power. I really believe that it was just something that was inspired because of the story. And that's where I hope that it just continues to bless people.
Absolutely. No, this is wonderful. So, Dr. Rosie, how can people find you if somebody, especially in Idaho, is watching this, or in Meridian, Idaho, where can people, what could they do to reach out to you?
I think the easiest way would go to the Facebook page. If you're on Facebook, it's Main Health Solutions. Main is my last name, and MAIN, Main Health Solutions, or on my website, Main Health Solutions. I keep it the same.
I know, that's great.
And so it's pretty easy, and you can find me there. Typically, I put my cell phone for people to call me. I'm very open with people. They can, want to talk, or if they need to text, I'm able to reach out to them.
Oh, that's awesome. Anything else you want to share?
I think that the biggest thing is you find your why. If you're going to do one of these diets, that it's not about losing weight, and it's not about even feeling good. And my intent is not just about me, it's about who else, what else, and what purpose do you have. And I think that we all need to be here for the long haul, for our purpose, that maybe you have your mission, your family, and I think finding a bigger calling, that you put that vision out there and know that you can do it. Whether this diet is for you or not, I think fasting is for everybody, that's for sure. Even if you eat whatever diet, vegetarian or whatever your diet you're on, that fasting is one of those principles that I think has also just healed the spiritual aspect of my life. And I think that we all need to fast and slow down and not always eat, because I think that it doesn't allow your body to heal. So we need to slow down, slow our eating, and just start to, when you look at Okinawans, when you look at those blue zones, those people have a different lifestyle than we have here in the American cultures, where you see these people, in their 70s fishing. They're not eating all the time. They're out active, and then they get their 1 or 2 meals with their families in the evening, and they're enjoying life. And I think that's the biggest thing if you're going to take time to do anything is slow down.
I love that. No, that's wonderful. And that's great wisdom behind Dr. Rosie with all of her accomplishments and her working with patients. How many years have you been in practice, by the way?
20.
20? Oh my gosh, congratulations. That's awesome. Well, guys, I hope this was helpful. Anything else? Should we share anything else?
No,
cool.
I think you guys got it. Just go do one thing.
Go do one thing. I like that. Yes, do that with passion and fire and have a purpose. So guys, I hope this was helpful. Again, what I want you to do, if you're watching this on YouTube, click the subscribe button right now. Thank you very much, because you'll get my weekly updates every single Monday. Also, join me on Instagram and Facebook at Holistic Dr. Mama, and check out my website at holisticdrmama.com, where you can get a plethora of information, lots of tips, and also, last but not least, what I want you to do right now is go ahead and go into the descriptions below, click on the link, and you can download my free guide for the 12 steps to transforming you and your family's health. All right, guys, I'm wishing you well. Thank you.